That it is a natural reaction, one in which we instinctively, at least as physically, instinctively will react in two ways. One is either by flight, running away, or by fight, defending ourselves. And so we will have a response which is not bad. So fear is something that we don't want to just say you should never fear, because there are times to be fearful. But when we take a look at our text is even further or even more, fuller than just don't be afraid, because what it says is, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of the death, or of death, I will fear no evil. No evil. So there are some things to fear, some things that we should not get around, some things which we should avoid, and some things which, if we haven't avoided, we should get away from. There are times when we need to control fear because we have a certain job to do. Hannah was in a game yesterday. I didn't get to see it, soccer, but I'm sure there was many opportunities, Hannah, when the ball was in front of you, and if you would go after that ball, it could be a dangerous place. Am I right? But you went after it anyway, right? Because you were ready. It was part of the game. And so whether it is sports or whether it is a different activity, there are times when we do need to be courageous, and we do need to overcome our fear. And in life itself, we can, and we should, and we do overcome fear. Fear of the evil. Evil is something that is bad for us. Evil that is something that takes away our hope. Evil being something that pulls us away from the God that we have. David was a shepherd early in his life. He was a shepherd that knew sheep. When he wrote the Psalm 23, we don't know exactly, but when he wrote it, he certainly had feelings and understood what it was like to be a sheep as well as to be a shepherd. We agree with that? All right. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. We've taken each one of those tidbits and we've taken apart and we've talked about them, which leads us, which gets us to this point where we now can say, no matter what, no matter how difficult the situation is, no matter what this world, what we're facing in this world, whether it's death or destruction or our dreams evaporating, we are never, ever alone. And that's what it means. But before we go there, let's take a look at what some people feel are the top 10 fears of this world. And then let's see if we agree with that. When we look at this, it reminds me of a game that used to go by, and the survey said, and this is the top 10 fears. And this came from one survey. No, I don't know if it's very accurate. But let's take a look at it. It goes from bottom to top. And so the 10th one is losing your freedom, fear of the unknown, pain. No, you really aren't afraid of pain until you get pain, right? Boy, when you get pain, you're saying, oh my goodness. And sometimes it is so bad, you start off saying, gee, I don't know if I can take this anymore, and finally you're saying, am I going to live? And finally you get to the point, and I'm saying this somewhat joking, but you get to the point you're saying just anything, but get rid of this pain. Anything. So we go from the fear of, and then we go from pain to disappointment, to misery, to loneliness. How about ridicule? Is that one of yours? One of mine? The rejection. And I would switch these two around, but they're very similar. Death and failure. Death and failure is the top fears. Now, I'm going to put this fairly short. But when we look at all of the fears that are in this world, what is the top fear? What is the top fear? And then, after we have maybe not decided on what the top fear is, but at least we've thrown it out there, then let's take a look at what does God say about fears? What are the three questions that we need to ask ourselves? Let's take a look at that. The first top fear, the real fear, I think, is losing control. And you say, losing control. Losing control. Losing control of your dreams, you're losing control of your career, losing control of your status, losing control of your social status, losing control of your children, your life. We fight to be in control, and in fact it is right that we should plan and we should have a handle on what we're going to do next. But if we get so involved, so into being in control, we are out of control, if you get my point, by trying to be in control. There is just no way. We can't do it. And so the secret to fear, at least not having fear, is to understand that the only place we can get that control from is from God Himself. It seems like maybe too simple. It seems maybe like, yeah, it's a pipe dream. But no, it's not. It's not. And David knew this. David, by the way, was a shepherd when he was supposed to be anointed. And Samuel came and was told by God, and Samuel had fear. Samuel told God that I can't go there because Saul, who was the present king, Saul was the first king of Israel, I can't go there because if I go there, Saul will kill me. And he said, no, take a heifer with you and invite the father and the family of David, bring them together, and I will tell you which one to anoint. And so it started almost with fear, didn't it? And so Samuel comes, and the people were very concerned about him coming, because usually when he came with the voice of God, and something bad was going to happen. But now Samuel said, no, I have come to anoint you the next king of Israel. And so David was pulled in out of the field as a young shepherd and was anointed at that time in the midst of all the fear that was around. It's interesting, but God was the one who chose him, as God has chosen each and every one of us. So if we at least have this up on top, at least as a thought, at least as my hypothesis, the biggest fear of all is the loss of control, then let's take a look at what God has to say about this. What does God want? It's not so much Him wanting, but what does He give us? God gives us His power, His strength. And so we have a verse that says that very clearly. In Isaiah 41, verse 10, it says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And so, Will and Sarah, as you look forward to just finishing the day, perhaps, but then the rest of the week, and the life that you have together, and the life that you have with Bristol, and Bristol's life, and as all of those that had the wonderful opportunity, the brothers and sisters had a wonderful opportunity, and us had a wonderful opportunity to be visible, to be here, to be present, to be not only sponsors in your case, but to be partakers of this gathering in which a child of God was blessed. A child of God was blessed. And so in this question, what does God want? What does He give us? He gives us control through His power and His strength. How does God take away our fears? How does God take away our fears? Well, the children heard a wonderful message about what you do when you have this difficult weather situation. But God takes away our fears by many ways, by many things, by the Word, as certainly, and by His presence, and by the presence of other people, by the gathering, by the children that come forward with the chords that give hope and strength to me as their pastor. Here's the verse that I have chosen for today, Hebrews 2. "Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, He Himself likewise partook of the same things." Then it says, as Jesus went through death so that He might destroy the one who has the power of death, and that is the devil. The devil is destroyed. The devil is under control. Deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery. So as much as I hate to say goodbye to my brother-in-law, as much as all of us hate to say goodbye to those that we have so close to us, and it is coming to that period of time. As much as we hate that, we understand that life is not the way that God had planned it. Life is indeed sinful, and with sin there is pain, and with sin there are things that we don't like, and with sin is even eventually our death, and not so far eventually. It's in the case of who knows. And yet we know that because God has done this for us, He has taken away of our fear of death. Oh, death, where is your sting? Grave, where is your victory? Christ has taken it away. How does God prepare us to live without fear? This is so important. Yeah, I'm talking to you. How does God want us to live and prepare us to live without fear? He guides us through His control. What is right to do. That's the law. So He guides us. And then when we come to Him and we say, Lord, I need your help, He gives us that beautiful grace that says, you are forgiven. He gives us that grace that says, I am with you and will walk with you and will be on your side. He takes away the baggage that we have been carrying and says, it is forgotten. It's no longer there. He takes control. Paul wrote Timothy these words for us. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love. And so we take control through the shepherd. We take control by losing control. We take control by knowing that God is the God that sustains us. When David was anointed, he got a special kind of control. In the verse, in the song, in Samuel, it says this, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon David from that day on. The Spirit of the Lord rushed upon David from that day on. And the Spirit of the Lord is here. And the Spirit of the Lord is always, when we open the books, when we open the book, when we open the Word, when we pray, when we come with the Word to God, the Spirit of God is there. What is it like to be loved by our Father in heaven? What is it like to be loved? I'd like to tell you a little story, and you perhaps have one that's just as good, and you can remember from your childhood, but I remember when I was perhaps 9. I know my brothers might say I was older, but I was. We lived on an acreage, and it used to be a farmhouse, and then the town grew around it, and so the farmhouse had barns. We had barns and outbuildings, and we had 5 acres. And so we had to have cattle to field and to feed. And at that particular night, it was dark. Yea, though I walked through the valley of the shadow of the death. I was 9, and it was dark. And I had feed buckets on both sides, and I did not feel like walking around the edge of that building. And I was whistling. And the only time I whistled, yeah, you know it, the only time I whistled was when I wanted to make sure that whoever was on the other side knew I was coming, so they would I wouldn't surprise them, or I was trying to give myself confidence. And my dad heard this. He had driven home. I hadn't heard him come home. And he said to me, something like, "Hi, whistling Sam." And I knew immediately with his voice that he knew I was scared to death, but I knew immediately that he was there. And so when we turn and we try to figure out what does this mean, what does God want to give us? He wants to give us a life without fear. Is it possible? A life without fear of evil? Is it possible? By God's grace. By God's grace it is. And so the Spirit of the Lord be with you, and the Spirit of the Lord is with you. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you, Lord, are with us, with me.